The Kentucky Derby champion, Mage, is the lock of the century. You can't lose. Bet your life savings. You've got my word on it. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, El Hombre. I'm joined tonight by Matthew DeSantis, and we are going to talk Mage. The Triple Crown, is it realistic? Is it a reality? My little open there was a cutesy little smart-ass comment. Obviously, it's not the biggest lock in sports history, but I do like his chances in the Preakness. It's a pretty weak field. It's, a lot of the big guns didn't come back for the Preakness. Matthew, let's talk about it, baby. What are you up to tonight? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited for some new contributors here on Trust the Profits. Really excited.
Absolutely.
Jessica Tugwell has recorded her first piece for us here at Trust the Profits, the pedigree puzzle. If you're watching this, make sure to go and check that out afterwards, where she actually does a deep dive on Mage's pedigree. It's like a 6.5-minute video, but super informative, really great stuff. So make sure to press that subscribe button to get all of this great content, like this video as well, and let us know what you think the chances are for Mage to win the Triple Crown. And listen, I'm excited, man. I think he's got a real shot at the Preakness. I'm not overwhelmed by that field. I think the race generally sets up pretty well for him if he can get away from the gate a little bit better, perhaps, than he did in the Kentucky Derby. Fewer horses to contend with. It's not the strongest crop in the world, and so he's definitely got a shot to be 2 for 3 going into the Belmont, I think, for sure.
Yeah, like you said, the Preakness. Typically the horses that get second and third in the Derby don't usually come back. It's a 2-week turnaround. It's pretty tough. So you see, the biggest competition he has here, I believe, I think in most people's book is First Mission, right? The new shooter here. There's not a whole lot of familiar names here. You've had a lot coming back from earlier in the season. I just think he's much the best in the field, and his trajectory is going upward. I think Mage has a huge shot at the Preakness. He's going to be a heavy favorite, and why not? I think obviously the Belmont's going to be the toughest leg. It always is. It's broken so many hearts over the years. Yeah, for that 30-year drought, which was my whole life up until Pharaoh broke it in 2015. I never saw one, and I wasn't sure that we ever would. You know what I mean? Like. And quite frankly, nowadays with the way the trainers and ownership groups, everybody treats the horses with, they treat them like the $1 million horses that they are. They don't want to do that quick turnaround. It's not the best idea on earth, but the Triple Crown, if you can make it through the gauntlet there, you're a legend, and Mage is
racing immortality. Yeah, it's racing immortality. And, it's interesting because I think Mage is the right type of horse to do it, in that he's a lightly raced horse. I actually like that he's taking kind of the Justify route of being this horse that didn't run at all at 2, has fresh legs. You see it when you look at the works. Gustavo Delgado is putting him through like 6 furlong works leading up to these races. Like, he's building this horse's foundation on the work track, and this is a fresh horse, only been in 4 career races. The quick turnaround, I think, will be less strenuous on a horse like this, as opposed to a horse perhaps like an Angel of Empire or 2 Phils, who had been going through a rather grueling campaign to get to the Kentucky Derby, and now you're also turning around after that. So, I think he's set up to certainly do well in this race. And in terms of the Preakness, his best competition is probably First Mission for Brad Cox. I would tell people, also pay attention to this weekend's Peter Pan, just because First Mission has run against another horse who's the favorite in that race. And so that might be a nice barometer for how good First Mission really is as well on this big of a stage. But I'm not overwhelmed by that horse by any stretch. I don't put a ton of stock into Lexington all the time. And, then maybe Disarm, maybe Instant Coffee, maybe National Treasure. But I think you can poke holes in all of those horses. And I'm not sure, maybe Confidence Game is actually going to end up being his biggest competition, coming back from a tough trip in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I'm looking at the field right now, and it's just not overwhelming. Like you said, I can't see that. Is Mage going to be sub 1-1? Like,
he's going to be close to it, I think.
I can't imagine he won't be. I don't know what Confidence Game. I don't know. I can't see a path to Mage not winning the Preakness outside of, like, a bad start or something like, just bad
Well, and
luck. I don't know.
that's a great point about the bad start, because he obviously is a horse that it seems to now just get off to bad starts. He's maybe a slightly more effective version of Tapit Trice, who
Right.
also gets off to bad starts. The nice part about it, he's past the toughest hurdle, right? If you get off to a bad start in a
Yeah.
20,
Oh yeah.
that's a huge problem. And he managed to navigate that. Now the fields only get smaller in the Preakness and in the Belmont. And when you have a smaller field, you can overcome those types of things, like a bad start, a little bit easier. There's less traffic to weave through. There's less other horses to contend with. So he's gotten the toughest part of it out of the way. Now, if he does break a little bit more alertly and replicates what we saw, some of that early speed in his maiden debut, now he can sit a very different type of trip and maybe sit, I don't want to say forwardly placed, but sit, fourth or fifth early on, rather than sitting seventh or eighth or something like that.
Yeah, it's huge. Like you said, the Derby, a bad starter's nightmare is the Derby. Tapit Trice, you saw it. He couldn't get out of the gate.
Yep.
Probably ran a great race, but you wouldn't know it because you didn't even see him until the end when he finally got up for sixth or seventh, whatever he was. And it was too late. And like you said, the Preakness, I don't know, it's that field size is going to be like half.
Yeah.
It's not locked in. We are still just over a week away here. But in my opinion, man, I really think that Mage, I was joking on the intro, obviously, for those of you that are going to comment that don't bet your life savings or whatever else. Dude, he is going to, he's going to win the Preakness too. The Belmont, let's talk about that, because I think we can both reduce it down to he's most likely going to win the Preakness and get, which is going to make for an exciting next month of speculation on the Belmont. And let me ask you this, because we won't know the Belmont entries anytime soon. You mentioned Tapit Trice.
Yeah.
There's obviously some others that could come into the full distance specialist, that type of thing. But
let
me ask you this. So if he wins the Preakness, if Mage wins the Preakness and is going for the Triple Crown, will that provoke more competition for the Belmont to try to go in there and be the spoiler? Or do people not think that way in this industry? I don't know. I think they tend to come out of the woodwork, so to speak, when there is a threat to win the Triple Crown. You might see a specialist. Like I remember so many times watching it. The Belmont break up a Triple Crown run.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's that you do have horses that are bred for distance that are a little bit, like you said, more specialists. I mean, obviously a horse like Tapit Trice, Todd Pletcher's already let it be known that horse is going to be headed towards the Belmont. That is his Belmont horse. Listen, the elephant in the room that we're not mentioning is that Forte, I have no idea when that horse is ever going to run again, potentially. I mean, with all the drama surrounding the positive test out of the Hopeful, it turns out from 8 months ago that we just are learning about.
Yeah, thanks again, horse racing world.
Yeah, and so and he's still on the Kentucky veterinary list, so him running in the Preakness seems incredibly unlikely, and he's not the type of horse that Pletcher would put in the Belmont. So it seems like Tapit,
especially coming off a little bit of a layoff here, you're going to throw him in a mile and a half.
And
because he
exactly.
I mean, I don't see Forte in there.
Yeah. And then Larry Ravelli's already made it very clear that Two Fills is not headed towards the Belmont, so there goes the second place horse in the Derby.
Angel of Empire is an interesting one.
Maybe
know, because I mean he would be definitely obviously the biggest threat to break up the Triple Crown if we get to that point, which I think we both agree is pretty likely to happen. If Angel of Empire is in there, man, I mean.
And so this actually brings up a great point, which is I went back and looked over the last 9 runnings of the Belmont Stakes when it was at a mile and a half. I throughout the year, Tis the Law in 2020 did it at a mile and an eighth because it's just not comparable.
Different
and it was a different schedule as well. And so of the last 9 runnings of the Belmont at 12 furlongs, 5 of the 9 winners went Derby to Belmont. So they were Derby runners who came back in the Belmont. That sets up nicely for a horse like Tapit Trice. Here's the other thing. 4 of the last 9 winners of the Belmont at 12 furlongs, sired by Tapit. That also sets up nicely for Tapit Trice.
Yeah, Tapit Trice is ideal for that. I mean,
he is the ideal horse for this. And
he can stumble out of the gate and get away with it because he's got so much extra time to get there.
He does. And the other
question is, go ahead, man. Yeah. I'm sorry. I got a point to make when you're done. It's pro Mage against Tapit Trice, and you know me, I'm a huge Tapit Trice fan. But go ahead and finish.
And maybe this actually speaks to both of them. Is he can get away. They both can get away slowly in the Belmont, because here's
Yeah.
the thing: the fractions in the Belmont are never fast because you are going a mile and a quarter, and so if you do get out slowly, you have plenty of time to catch up. Like you don't have to try to hurry up as if it's a shorter race, and to get into position. So certainly from a pedigree standpoint, from a horse, from a race trajectory standpoint, a lot of things point towards Tapit, Trice in that Belmont. But interested in hearing your point. That's a little bit more pro Mage.
I mean, he kind of runs that similar, like you kind of touched on it. They both can't get a start really. But Mage, the trajectory has been parallel, if not better than Tapit, Trice, where, I mean, he just gets better. You don't see him wear down. Angel of Empire was closing pretty hard there, but Mage wasn't really pushed either. I mean, that horse, I think everybody's kind of shortcoming on betting Mage in the Derby was that he had only run, he's got a shorter history than most of them, which that's my point here, I guess, is that Mage, we just haven't seen enough of him. He really could be this good to where he's the trajectory is even with or better than anybody else. Like, he's still improving. He hasn't shown a weakness yet, put it that way, at all. Not even a little bit.
You're absolutely right. And he's a horse that we have yet to see him plateau, right? He's only gotten better every race. Now, maybe that Derby is the best effort that he's going to turn in, but we don't know that yet. He could keep getting better. And Andy Serling actually just made a point earlier today that Kentucky Derby horses tend to actually run better. Like, winners tend to run even better in the Preakness, that the 2-week turnaround doesn't really hurt them that much. He made the point about Smarty Jones. He made the point. Smarty Jones's best race was the Preakness on 2 weeks rest. Like, that was his best career race by a mile. So, being able to turn around, and especially being a young horse, a fresh horse, being able to turn around, there's a lot to like there, I think, for Mage in this type of a spot. And then, Belmont, listen, it's the test of champions. And the question is, who's going to be waiting there in New York for him? And I know it's going to be Todd Pletcher and Tapit, Trice. Who else joins the party? Maybe Angel of Empire. Maybe Confidence Game decides to run all 3 legs, as
that's another one I
has said. As Keith DeSormo has kind of said that they would. So, there might be some other possibilities there, but I think it's really intriguing to see who will be waiting for him in the Belmont.
Yeah, we'll see, man. It's too early to talk about too seriously on the Belmont. We're speculating, but Tapit, Trice, even if it's just Tapit, Trice, is going to be a bigger competition level than anybody in the Preakness, in my opinion. Just to lay it out real quick, my overall thoughts on it. The pros for Mage, the Preakness field's very weak. I think he's going to waltz into the Belmont with 2 of the 3 legs. He's got a shot at the Triple Crown just for that reason alone. We don't know what the Belmont is. It could be tougher. And Mage has only gotten better. Those are the 2 big pros for me. He hasn't shown a weakness yet. On the con side of things, I have the Belmont's always tougher. Just the race itself is the ultimate test. Not just the distance, but the quick turnarounds of 3 races in a row quicker than they're used to. My other con is we don't know what the big guns are. And like we just touched on, Tapit, Trice is a better competitor than anybody in the Preakness field. And then, the scheduling by nature of the Triple Crown is just, it's exhausting. So
I will throw out one other factor that maybe teases a video that we're going to be doing for Preakness Week, which is our good friend Bobby B. Bobby B is back. And Bob Baffert, is back with a vengeance, and he's there with National Treasure. Now, I know I'm higher on National Treasure than everybody else is in the network, and I get that. But Bob Baffert's won 7 Preaknesses. Bob Baffert would love nothing more than to show up after a 2-year ban from the Kentucky Derby and rain on everybody's parade and remind them who's the biggest name and who's the biggest trainer and who's got the best horses in the industry. So,
of course, you would bring that up, man. I really honestly, because like you said, you're higher on National Treasure, I hadn't even considered that. Like the spoiler, the amazing walk-off home run that it would be for Baffert to come in here and win. I mean, it's the ultimate flex. Disney World moment if he does that, for him. Like, ha, suck it, and walk off like a walk-off.
It's a total walk-off DX mic drop move.
And who would that happen to of all people in the industry? It would be Baffert. So, damn it, you just put a little bit of doubt in my head that I didn't have before. Matthew, great conversation, man.
Absolutely, man.
We got a lot more Preakness content coming. Yep. Like Matt said, check out Jessica Tugwell's the pedigree stuff. I mean, that total nerd stuff. I loved it.
Oh, it's awesome.
I knew she was coming with the nerdy pedigree stuff that would be over my head, but I mean, she put it pretty, laid it out pretty for the common folk like me who can actually, put it together and kind of understand it. You're going to learn something, baby. A little biology lesson in there.
Exactly. You even get a little science lesson in the middle of it. Like, it's awesome. Like, we all get smarter by listening to Jessica. So absolutely make sure to check that out. We're thrilled to have her on the network.
Trust the prophets. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Comment below. Do you think there's a legitimate shot that Mage wins the Triple Crown? Thanks for joining. Peace.